Depression. It's simply a mood disorder. You know, when it's like a rainy day and you're bored and lethargic and there's nothing to eat in the fridge, no matter how many times you look, you don't feel like cooking and you can't really afford takeout? No, it's absolutely nothing like that, but for some reason, many people seem to think it is. Or at least something similar like that. Just a bad day, a bad week, a case of the Mondays. Something good will happen and you can be happy again. But it's nothing like that. So, what is it like? Alright, so let's start with what does it feel like? Well, it's kind of like grief. You know, when you've lost someone you really care and love, that feeling you can't quite describe, that sadness, that emptiness, that pressure, like it's pulling you down, it's like that. Except for one thing. With grief, grieving for a loved one, you can couple that with happy memories. You're grieving because you cared about this person, and it's got a lot of happy memories attached to it. Depression, on the other hand, doesn't couple. So imagine if you've ever had a time when you're grieving, you can imagine what depression is like because it is like that, but without having some happy, fond memory attached to it. And it just comes out of nowhere. If that doesn't help, I can try and compare it to a video game because I like gaming. So, imagine you're a character in a game. Not one where you have to save the world or have cool powers, just one where you have to live your life, however that works. Your character has a limited amount of energy they can use for their activities. During the day, you might go through a morning routine, eat breakfast, you go to work, you might spend time with friends, do chores, but eventually you run out of energy, and then anything you do sort of runs at half efficiency until you go to bed and get that energy back. Now, if you have depression, then imagine playing that same video game, but anytime you do an activity, you have to spin a wheel. Like a wheel of fortune. And if it lands on bad, that activity costs 10 times the amount of energy, which is really daunting if you're standing in front of the thing that you're about to do. And if anything goes wrong, you could just lose so much energy for very little reason. So your daily energy runs out really quickly on a bad day, and any day can be a bad day. You can maybe, have all your energy expanded before you finish breakfast. And then you've got to do the rest of the day at half efficiency, at best, until you go to bed and hope you get some of that energy back. So if video games don't work for you, a better one is weight training. So instead of, losing stamina, every time you go to do something and you spin that wheel and the result happens to be bad, you get some weights put on your shoulders. And those weights stay with you for the rest of the day. And if you spin another bad, just more weight gets added on. I know that sounds really dumb, but it's actually really accurate because I know a lot of bad days I felt like there's just some extra pressure on my shoulders and on my back. And it can mess up your muscles. Yeah, it can affect you physically just like that. Speaking of how it can physically affect you, do you remember before when we were talking about grief and I said that depression doesn't couple with anything? It doesn't couple with something nice. Well, it doesn't couple with things, but it does find everything that can go wrong and it can give them a boost. If you have another disorder going on, depression can make that worse. If you have asthma, it can make your asthma worse. If you have a headache, it can make your headaches and migraines worse. It can find your other problems and work with them to make them worse. So obviously there aren't actually spinning wheels going on where you're thinking, please don't be bad, please don't be bad, please don't be bad. There's not actually weighted pads dropping on your shoulders. So to be more medically accurate, it is chemical imbalances in the brain. I can go into that more another time, but the internet is out there for you to look at, and that'll do better than I'm probably going to explain. Just remember, more importantly, that for someone with depression, you have no idea if what they're doing is using the normal amount of energy or some random 10 times multiplier, or with 20 kilos on their shoulders due to just being riddled with disconnected grief.